Hello. We are going to talk about something that has caused a lot of media storm in the past months. So it has been featured in most of the quality journalism outlets, and there have been about 5 other countries that have copied this idea from its inception. So we're going to talk about Digital Nomad Visa, and I have here today with me people who will actually be doing the talking. So we have Ruth Annus from the Estonian Ministry of Interior. Ruth is actually the one who created e-residency back in the day and has been responsible for the legislation of e-residency and Digital Nomad Visa. So we have Kristel Kruustük, co-founder of Testlio, who has tons and tons of developers and testers all around the world and is quite familiar with the world of remote entrepreneurship. And we have Christoph Huebner, who is one of the founders of Erika, e-resident community, a serial entrepreneur, and possibly a digital nomad. We'll find out more. And my name is Ott from e-residency, yes. So we'll talk about who is a digital nomad. We'll try to find out what's the criteria, what defines a digital nomad. It is a kind of trending topic and quite a controversial one. My first question goes to Christoph. How many countries have you lived in the past 5 years?
Actually, I don't count them. I can maybe guess, but I'm a more slow traveler. And here we come already to the distinction between these digital nomads. The variety is so big, and some of them have goals like, I want to have traveled all the countries in the world by my 30th birthday, and I'm more like the opposite of that. I try to live in a country or in a place, in a city for a month at least, even a bit more, to get more familiar with local habits, traditions, cuisine, and things like that. And so in the last 5 years, I think it's been 20, 25. This year, most of my time I spent in the Sultanate of Oman for 4.5 months. I was locked there during the COVID times and the Ramadan. So I haven't spent so much time in one country in a while.
Do you consider yourself a digital nomad? And what or who is a digital nomad?
Actually, I don't like that term so much. If others use it, I don't run away from it. I call myself rather a location-independent entrepreneur. So for me, it means like I run my own business, actually a little team of 7 at the moment. We all work remotely. So we have, it's my co-founder and business partner who's actually here today as well. And we have 5 employees who have like a regular employment with social insurance and everything around that, but we don't have an office. So everyone can work from wherever they want. We meet 3 times a year somewhere in Europe for what we call workations. And this is one example of digital nomadism. Many others are just working as freelancers. I think if you look into numbers, most people who are considered digital nomads are programmers, copywriters, translators, but most of them are developing software.
Right.
I don't. I'm in the insurance industry.
Getting back to developers and testers, Kristel, you have been building a pretty crazy company, and you've been traveling around everywhere, and you created the company with your husband, as I understand.
Yes, that's right.
Can you share your story, and do you consider yourself a digital nomad?
So first of all, I would love to introduce you to Testlio. So we are a global network of software testers that help companies release great apps. So we work with clients like Amazon, Microsoft, CBS, Fox, NBA, and so more than 90% of our revenue is coming from the customers in the US. But yes, I do consider myself kind of a digital nomad, especially because when I started Testlio back in 2012, I was living in London at the time. And I was working for a company full-time as a software tester, and at the same time, I discovered different online platforms that allowed me to connect with global companies around the world that could use my services. And I think that was the first time when I got introduced to like this location-dependent like entrepreneurship, pretty much. And then I found a lot of problems, and then I decided to start my own company. And so we have testers today in more than 130 countries all over the world. So I work on a daily basis. I work with testers who just live wherever they want to live. And so I have many like great stories where a couple that became testers on the Testlio platform and started earning some very consistent income from the platform, they were like, oh, the weather in Ukraine is getting pretty bad in the winter time. Like why not go and discover Bali? And so we have multiple stories like this in our community where people feel like they can finally they finally see that the world is open to them and they can be wherever they want to be. And so they can discover places while they grow their families, for example, like you don't need to be in one place anymore. And from my personal experience as well, like over these past almost 8 years that I've been building Testlio now, I've been traveling the world myself as well, but mostly I've been traveling back and forth between the US and Estonia. But I truly like see the value in the visa that the Estonian government is currently developing, because we've seen the challenges of like bringing people here to work in our Estonian headquarters, and so maybe that could be an opportunity for them to come here easier and work for us as freelancers.
So sounds like a job at Testlio is a dream job.
Yes, absolutely. Come work for us.
Thanks. Ruth, so you have designed the Digital Nomad Visa. What can Estonia offer to digital nomads, and why is this kind of visa needed?
A Digital Nomad Visa is designed for people like these here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, because now I see that it is really needed. We designed the Digital Nomad Visa together with the community, and we asked the community, what do you actually need? And we found out that remote working and tourism being combined is really a lifestyle that is not covered in our legislation and in most countries' legislation. We are kind of thought that why should we ask the people to work on the spot, being physically present, if they actually don't need it? They can work remotely. So people usually work with tourist visa, but it is not allowed. Tourist visa is not meant for working. So as the world is competing for talented people with innovative thinking, why shouldn't they work for companies like Testlio? And why come here if you don't need to come here? And on the other side, the indirect influence is even bigger, because it is the more Estonia is known in the world as a innovative country, the more people want to come here, they want to invest here, and our companies get an opportunity to export the services as well. So being combined with e-residency, or maybe in some point with a startup visa program that we also have, that is very popular. So we can have a nice package of e-state that helps to make Estonia bigger.
So who here has worked somewhere on a tourist visa? Can you raise your hand? Liars. You all have. I mean, it's a common problem everywhere. You go to a hotel somewhere and you open your computer, you answer an email. That's technically illegal. So Estonia is trying to solve some kind of bigger problem here. And of course, the road there is not going to be easy, but at least there is some place where we're starting with it. So I think it's cool to see that the ministry has this kind of ambition.
In the sorry, I just wanted to interrupt as well. Like in the US, there's I just remember, as I had to go there very constantly, like I always had to choose my words on the border, because you can go there with the 6-month business visa, but you can't like work there. But you can meet your customers, you can meet your investors. So that's what we were doing there when we went there for like 3 months, for example.
So you can meet, but you cannot open your computer and answer your email.
Exactly. So there was always like this thin line. And I remember like these first times when I was traveling there, I was like shaking on the border, because I was like, oh my God, what are the right words that I need to say here now? But I had like I had set up my company in the States, but I was like a European citizen, right? So it was so interesting for me.
Ruth, can you tell us who are eligible for the visa? What is the criteria of being a digital nomad in the eyes of the government?
Yeah, in the eyes of the government and according to the law, a digital nomad is a person who works for a company that is not registered in Estonia or is a freelancer and works remotely. This is the main criteria, because it's very easy to get a regular visa if you have an employer in Estonia. But we didn't have a solution for people who want to just combine tourism, staying here nicely, and maybe move around the world and work for a company registered elsewhere in some other country. So this is basically the concept of being a digital nomad and having a digital nomad visa. And it's, to get a long-term visa to come to Estonia, you need a reason. So you have to provide a reason, why do you want to come here? If you want to come to work for Estonian employer, for example, or to take care of your relatives, some family reasons, then you are eligible to long-term visa. Now we gave another ground to apply for a long-term visa, and this is being a digital nomad.
Christoph, what do you think of the other countries who have followed with this similar kind of proposition?
I think in the end, it's a thin line to draw to try to grasp the change in the world of work. Because I mean, you pointed out this distinction. What part of that is work and what isn't? If I meet my clients in another country, that's part of my work. Yeah. So even if I don't put up a computer during that conversation, that's part of my work. So the legislation is always lacking behind that and a bit slower than reality. Other countries that are on that, I've been in a discussion in Thailand earlier this year around the Nomad Summit, big event that happens there every year, and they were looking into that as well. I heard that Bali is putting something on the table.
Today we know that there's Barbados, Bermuda, Bahamas, and Georgia, and some other countries. But they all are highly dependent on tourism. So in Estonia, the tourism sector is maybe 10%, maybe a bit more of the GDP. But when you look at most of the countries that have come with this idea, it's the tourism that they are really missing at the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the end, the legislation and the idea of lawmakers in these countries come from a perception of work and labor as doing something physically with your hands, operate a machine or harvesting or something like that. But if I sit in front of a computer and if I send an email to a business partner or to my parents, that can even happen within the same minute. So where does work end and where is the private usage of the computer beginning? It's really hard to tell, and I think at least coming from the privilege of having one of the most powerful passports in the world, where I can travel to most countries visa-free anyway, and staying there not for a period of 12 months, because that's in my head a bit contradicting with nomadism. That means like touring around, and many people do that also to not become a tax resident in a country, stay there less than half a year, or in some countries even less. I don't see much point in applying for a 12-month visa in a country that allows me to work there as well, while in the same time I can go to most countries on a tourist visa, and what I do on my computer is even for, I mean, there's always the saying, do what you like and we will never have to work. And I like my work so much that it just doesn't feel like work. And if I had to explain to someone what I'm doing, I would rarely use the term work for it anyway.
And we are very privileged, of course, with our kind of passporting and citizenships, right? But it's good to have these opportunities for others. Kristel, as an employer, if you put your employer hat on, what do you think of these companies who don't adopt the flexibility of remote work?
Well, I think the reality is they're going to lose in the market, because today talent is everywhere, and companies need to adapt to that. And with that, I just wanted to tell a story of how San Francisco, which is like a really international city in the States, and this is where all the big tech companies reside. It's been an interesting, after COVID, basically a lot of employees have gone back to their home countries, because they realized that hey, I don't need to go to the office. It doesn't matter. I can go fly back to Brazil or to Argentina to my family. I'm in the same time zone. Nothing is going to change for that. And so at the end of the day, I really do believe that these companies that won't adapt to this new type of work will definitely lose in the market. And after the pandemic hit, we have also considered maybe being fully distributed team. So because again, as I said, this gives us an access to talent all around the world. But one of the things that
you decided against that?
No, we haven't decided anything yet. But the reality is that we already have a distributed team in the US, for example. But we have a cluster in Texas, for example. So when the US team gets together, they try to do it once a year. They fly to Texas, for example, to Austin. They get together, they meet up, and then once a year we try to have the entire team together here in Estonia. But this is our internal team of Testlions. We also have the community, right, who is really working from everywhere. But yeah, we really see that we shouldn't be location dependent anymore. And now when we interview people, for example, we are looking for software engineers now, then we are interviewing people from all over the world. But one of the key components here for us is that we can communicate. So for example, if you are in New Zealand, for example, then it would be pretty impossible to talk with the US team or Estonian team, because the time zones are very, very different, right? But otherwise, yeah, I think fully distributed is the key to success in the future. And people want to travel, as you said yourself as well. You just want to be free. If I apply for a work visa, then I feel I need to be here for 1 year and then I can go somewhere else. No, maybe in 2 weeks, I feel I would love to go to Spain because the Estonian weather is so shitty, right? So,
but actually that's a good thing about the Estonian way here with the Digital Nomad Visa, because it's actually not just a visa to Estonia, but to the whole Schengen area.
Don't tell anyone.
That's true, yeah. You can also stay within 180 days, 90 days in the whole Schengen area. So it comes with a long-term visa.
The benefit, yeah, got it.
So
but
that's
of
nice.
course, we would like you to stay in Estonia.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's some added value that you can also go to Schengen. What I wanted to say is that you might not feel like working but it's in the eyes of the government. What looks like working is considered working. So in most countries, what looks like working is considered working might end like being fined and maybe even asked to leave. And in some countries, it might end with an entry ban. So if you say that, no, I'm not working, it just looks like working. So
yeah, sure.
The perception of working
so
has
that's
to change.
why this was one of the reasons why we designed a special visa, is because the community said that we're not sure how it looks like in the eyes of the government. So we thought that, okay, we can say that in Estonia it's absolutely okay to work as a freelancer or for a foreign company remotely from Estonia. You don't need to find a sheikh at the border and ask what I'm going to say. So that's why this was the main reason, practical reason why we designed the visa.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, it's all nice to travel and work and not work. What about tax? I mean, the current situation or the tax legislation in the world is based on physical boundaries. Ruth?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And one thing to be what we constantly keep surprising our colleagues in other countries is that, we created something, but there are borders in the legislation, there are physical borders, but for us, these things have become an obstacle. So tax legislation basically hasn't changed a lot in 100 years. And immigration legislation, more or less so, but we can't design immigration policy or even tax policy. This is not my area, but basically based on the understanding that is like 100 years old or 80 years old. Immigration policy, for example, designed 100 years ago, even I would say 20 years ago, is based on the idea that when you leave your home, you most probably never come back. So, but the world has changed a lot. And of course, we try to find some new concepts, interpreting the legislation, pushing our colleagues to, look from another angle, that everything that is digital doesn't need to be physically present. This is the main idea of the world now. So why travel? It's very personally, it's quite boring to travel like 10 hours to some other country, to US, for example. If I don't need to go there, I personally would prefer not to go. But the understanding of work as being physically present, business as being physically present, like in construction. Obviously, you can't, digitalize everything like constructing a house. You have to be present most probably there. So the elephant is in the room. We are trying to push it a little bit outside the room. But it will take a lot of discussions, and most probably, I would say, in 10 years, I wouldn't say in a shorter period, it might change.
So we're training the elephant.
Yeah.
Christoph, what do you think it gives back to the economy, if anything, this kind of visa program or?
To the Estonian economy in particular, I think the e-residency program is a great framework to run your company location independent. And that's actually the reason why I'm sitting here today. For the last 3 years, I have my personal company set up through Estonia. And that allows me to be much more flexible with everything. I mean, I used to run companies in Germany before, and there just the idea of traveling for more than 3 weeks and not be able to look into the letterbox at home, where there might be an important letter with a short deadline from the tax authority, gave me headaches and made me nervous already after a couple of days of traveling. And you guys here in Estonia, you don't really realize how far ahead you are with this framework of the global competition. But even developed countries like Germany, where we in our insurance company still use fax on a weekly basis. Seriously.
The US pays in, like they send you a check, right?
Yeah,
or...
but coming back to the question, so having established my company here and paying my corporate taxes here is definitely a thing that Estonian economy benefits of. Because I could, technically I could open my company anywhere in the world. But with this set of advantages I have here, with access to the European single market, to the Eurozone, and all that around it, is for me just the perfect basis to start with a company, and then realizing after time that there is so much more behind that little card, that there's a full country behind that. With
actual people.
Yeah, actual people with history, with culture, with I don't need to tell you what you all have here that attracts people far beyond using Estonia just as a platform to run a company. In my case, I love to spend my summers here. As a nomad, I come for 2 to 3 months a year and just enjoy Estonian mentality, food, and even started to learn the language. So I think I'm contributing, even though I don't pay my personal income tax here, I spend my money here. And I think in the end, combined with corporate tax and spending money here, that's something that the Estonian economy sets apart of many other, even European economies.
And that's tangible, monetary value, but you actually travel around the world and talk about Estonia to a whole lot of people who hopefully some of them will become e-residents or nomads and come here as well. So
I became a fanboy.
Yes, yes. Ambassador. You also have built a business idea around digital nomads.
Yeah, actually these days I'm founding a new company here, or the company is founded, but I'm in the application process with Finansinspektion for the Estonian insurance broker's license. That's actually a process that takes far longer than expected. And is still not completed. But what we are doing here, as with the German company, we're specialized in children's health insurance, so very niche. But traveling around, talking about e-residency at these digital nomad events, people approach me all the time like, you're an expert for health insurance, can you help me with my global health insurance issues? And doing that, we figured out that we have quite some expertise that we could facilitate, and now with the new company here, we want to address these location-independent entrepreneurs and help them with a global long-term health insurance coverage.
Beautiful. So actually building a business on top of it, or already a second one.
And making ends meet on different levels, as we have a lot of industry contacts, and there is an initiative here at the moment that Accelerate Estonia with Vera, who is maybe present here. She was on this stage yesterday, trying to put the public social system of Estonia somehow together with e-residency and opening it up for a global coverage. We're trying there to put our industry contacts from the private sector into the game. Looks quite exciting what's happening there at the moment. So I think we do some nice contribution here.
Kristel, what do you think in 15 years? Will we all be nomads?
Yes, yes, I would rather.
Not if you don't want to.
Yes.
That's
well,
true.
but who doesn't? The question is.
And are we?
When you look at the young people these days, then they all want to travel the world, and maybe. I think a lot of people are going to be digital nomads.
Actually, that's one of my big findings of the last years traveling around. There's people, they're two half. One half is that wants to discover, and the other half is just perfectly happy with living in their village, having their life around them, and aren't missing anything. That's why I wanted to emphasize, only if you really want to.
True. I would agree with that.
Okay, guys, we're running out of time. So
Already? We didn't even...
thank you, everyone, for participating. Thanks for the audience here, audience behind the screens. Check out Digital Nomad Visa, check out e-residency. It might be a solution for you. And hope to see you again soon. Thank you.